Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome to How to Get Hired with me, Bill, the company's expert. And it's great to... I was going to say it's great to see you all here today. I'm so used to saying that if I get up in front of a room and talk, but I can't see you guys. But there's 3 people here that it shows. So that's awesome. And hello to Arya, who says hello in the chat. If you're in the chat, this is a Q&A, so you can ask me questions. But to start off today on how to get hired, we're just going to review a couple of polls that I sent out on my channel and see what you guys are saying. So it seems that 49% of you are employed but looking to move upwards, and 30% of you are not working right now and looking for a job. So that's great. We're going to be talking about all matters related to how to get employment. For people on the lower level, it's sort of applying for jobs and doing interviews. For people at a higher level, it's networking. The next poll that went out was, which communication medium is most effective in your opinion? And 68% of you guys said in-person meeting. You are absolutely correct. Obviously, if you have technical information, lots of numbers, statistics, or fine details, you'd put that in emails and it would be in written form. But for the vast majority of communication that you're going to be handling in a job, in-person meeting is the most effective. Don't send emails if it's important. Go and talk to the person face-to-face if possible. And if you can't do that, the next best thing is doing a video call or a phone, like a voice call. So do that, okay? Do it in person if you can. If you're an introvert like me and, you get stressed having to talk to people face-to-face, try and work on that, okay? Practice makes perfect. Which day is the best to apply for jobs? Now, 57% of you guys said Monday. Monday. Well, if you're dealing with a person, usually Tuesday is the best because Monday is spent playing catch up, getting into the week, getting the weekend out of your head, that kind of thing. Tuesday is the first real day of work for new business. So if you apply on Monday and people see it on Tuesday, that could work. I'm looking to do a side hustle to supplement my income. 74% of you said yes. 74% of you are looking to do a side hustle to supplement your income. I don't know if that's the sign of the times in this recession that we're going into. I'm not sure. But if that's the case, if that's what you're looking to do, check out my recent series called Beyond Employment. Okay, there's 5 episodes. Unfortunately, it gets off to a little bit of a slow start, but it's all my high-level advice. I've built many companies, advised a lot of startup founders and small business owners, and it's all my high-level advice for people. So check that out if you are indeed looking to do your own side hustle or have your own business. Moving away, the series talks about how to move away from the grind of being an employee, working for someone else. Okay, there's definitely a place for that, and it's perfectly fine for a lot of people, but a lot of us aspire to more, and it's a great way to live. You get to do things your own way. There's no ceiling on your income, and you don't have to report to the man, someone like me. Well, so it's great. So if you're the type of person that's into that or you're curious, okay, you can do this. There's never been a better time to do your own, to have your own business instead of being an employee. And there are many, many advantages. I did that many, many years ago, and I've never looked back. And I'd highly recommend it. Another poll. Do you feel annoyed or insulted when a recruiter says to you, tell me about yourself in a job interview? 56% of you said no, actually. Okay, that's great. I find personally, I agree with 44% of you that, yeah, it's an insulting question, simply because it's so cliched. The person asking it, if they choose to start off an interview using this cliched, canned question, they're not a very good interviewer. I don't care what you say. I don't care about all the armies of recruiters out there that will give me an argument on that one. Yeah, it's insulting. Tell me about yourself. I mean, what do you want to know? But unfortunately, this question gets asked a lot, so we have to know how to respond to it. So I've got a video on that. We're getting towards the end of this. Another poll, what's your biggest turnoff? A bad boss, bad coworkers, or bad customers? 67% of you said bad boss. I would agree. Okay, if you got a good boss, but you got a couple of jerks working with you as coworkers, you can usually get over that. As long as, the boss believes in you, champions you, that kind of thing. If you got a bad boss, then there's not much you can do. And finally, actually, this one is just from this morning, called My Most Dreaded Question is, what is your weakness? So if you figure that is your most dreaded question to be asked by a recruiter or a hiring manager, we're going to get into that today. I won't give away the stats yet, but go and vote on that. True or false? Your worst question is, what is your weakness? Everyone needs to know how to answer that. When you go for job interviews, okay, or when you do a job search, you need to know how to answer that question, okay? I have talked extensively about it, so make sure you know what you're doing there. Okay, let's go to the chat. So we got quite a few people here. Hello to Arya, hello to Study, that's your name. That's awesome. Study is ready. Alberto Rangel says, I just had a second interview. I'm going to align this so that it lines up on my screen better. There we go. I just had my second interview, utilized your method, and wow. Oh, okay. Well, hopefully that means it went well. If so, congratulations. That's great. Yeah, second interviews are just like first interviews. Do not let your guard down, okay, on the second interview. Sometimes recruiters will, they'll sort of try to fool you into thinking that, it's not so formal. We know each other. I like you. That's why I'm bringing you back for a second interview. So you're among friends. You can loosen up a little. We can talk more fully and completely about things. That's a trick. Okay. Take it just as seriously as the first interview. Stay as guarded as on your first interview. They're going to want to go deeper into things on the second interview. Don't be fooled into just being more casual about it and maybe letting a few things slip and talking off the top of your head. Very dangerous. Hello to Tanya. Tanya says hello. You're welcome, Alberto. Tech X is here. I have an interview in a few minutes. Well, good luck, Tech X. Okay? Good luck. You are going to do fine. However you do, just do your best. And you'll come out on top. Tanya says, I was invited to the on-site interview to the company, and they asked me to make a presentation about my past experience. What should I ask them during the interview? Any advices on how to behave on the interview? Wow, okay, that's pretty general. Well, look, if you have to give an actual presentation about your past experience, okay, make sure that the things you tell them about what you've done in the past, okay, apply to this job that you're interviewing for. Now, if you don't know what applies and what doesn't, always go back to the job posting. Presumably you replied to a job posting where they had a description of the job and they had the requirements, right? So they're telling you right there what they are looking for. Okay, so you want to focus on that list of things that they said in the job posting that they're looking for. So if they said, we're looking for someone who has experience in, this particular task or this particular skill, make sure that when you're talking about your past experience, don't just give like a general sort of life history. Talk about specifically the things that they said they were wanting to hear, they were looking for. So talk about all the experience you have with that particular skill or task. Okay, tailor your experience so that it's tuned to what these people said they're looking for. Okay, what should you ask them during the interview? You got to ask them a bunch of questions. I've done a video on that gives you a full answer, but the short version is, ask them about the role. Like, what are your expectations for the person in this role in the first 30 days, in the first 60 days, at the end of the first 90 days? What's your expectations for those? Challenges. You can ask about challenges. What are the greatest challenges? What's the greatest challenge, in your opinion, for the person that's going to be in this role? What's going to be their biggest challenge? Or you could say, what's the biggest challenge for this company right now or this organization? Or what's the biggest challenge right now, or in the immediate future? What's going to be the biggest challenge for this industry? Something like that. Okay, those are all great questions. And how to behave in the interview formally, politely, and professionally. Hopefully that makes sense. Awesome Raj is here. Hey, Awesome Raj. I recognize your name. You've been here before. Salam, sir. Hope you are doing well. I am doing well. I'm recovering from a respiratory illness, but I'm doing okay. Awesome Raj is false. I know how to answer this weakness. Well, good. Because if you don't know how to answer this question, what is your weakness? That's going to be an instant, sudden death elimination for you when you go to a job interview, especially with a recruiter. They love to ask these cliched, canned questions, and it's very transparent what they're doing. They're looking for, like, if you were to honestly say weakness, okay, I would applaud you for your honesty. And we all know that it's a great thing to know your own weaknesses so you can try to manage them. You either work on them or you try and, maybe not put yourself in that particular situation because you know that you don't handle it well, or, something like that. All of that's obviously good, right? But the problem is that you're making a first impression with somebody. So if the first thing that they hear when they meet this new person is how they're bad at stuff, your first impression is going to be very bad. They're going to think, oh, this person, they're bad at stuff. They're not a very good employee, right? And you're handing them a reason to justify eliminating you right there, okay? That's the dangers of this question. They just ask you. They don't have to dig or probe or really, peel away the layers and see who you are. They just ask you. They say, what's wrong with you? In what way would you be a bad employee? And then you just say, oh, well, for this reason, I'm bad at this. I'm terrible at that. I can't stand this. I've had problems with this. And they go, well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And then they eliminate you, like when you take a driver's test and the person is, doing the little check marks and things on the page as you drive. And you're always wondering, like, what do they do? They're like writing stuff down. I'm just driving along. So that's what that question is about. Very dangerous question. So you got to keep your guard up and you got to know what you're doing. Tanya says, the worst question is, tell me about a situation when you missed deadline and had a conflict with coworkers. Actually, Tanya, that's actually not really, those two things are actually not really that bad. If you've prepared for them, right? If you've prepared for them, those are actually not too much of a problem. You see, the thing is, at least the last question you asked there, tell me about a time when you had a conflict with coworkers, or even the first one, tell me about a time you missed a deadline. You see, you're answering with a story from your past, an experience that you had. Now, they're not going to be able to challenge you on any of that. If you say you were in this situation, this is what happened, this is what you did, this is how it turned out, they're not going to say, no, it wasn't. No, you didn't. Like, how would they know, right? So that's the good thing about those questions, is that if you have your story ready, the story makes sense and it doesn't paint you in a bad light, what are they going to do? Like, they just have to accept it. Now, if you're being asked something like, what is your weakness? They can challenge you on that. They can say that's not a weakness. I meant a weakness like to do with your employment history. Give me that weakness. Like, they can challenge you on those type of questions, but not on these behavioral questions. So where was I here? I'm going to start highlighting these things here. So, for example, a time you missed a deadline. It was 2 years ago. I was working in this job. I was given a task to complete this thing on time. However, there was a miscommunication in precisely when the deadline was. I thought it was one thing. It was actually another. And so this is what I did. I completed it for the date that what I believed was the deadline as it was communicated to me. Unbeknownst to me, that was incorrect, and it hadn't been properly communicated. It had been garbled. I got my information through a third party. It didn't go directly from my boss. And so that led to a problem. But the thing was that it was a learning experience. I learned that, to always verify if something's important, always get the information straight from the source, and always verify that the parameters of your task are accurate, so you know what you're doing. And ever since then, I've never missed a deadline. So there you go. Something like that. What was the other question you asked? Conflict with coworkers. Listen, they're going to ask about that, because that's a primary concern of any interviewer, is that if they hire you, what do you like as a person? Conflict exists, okay? And it is ubiquitous. It's everywhere. You're going to be having conflict with all kinds of people constantly. Now, just so you know, the definition of conflict, if people care about this, the definition of conflict is not the same as a confrontation. It doesn't mean a shouting match. Conflict is anytime you have a difference of opinion with someone else, okay? If your boss says, I need you to do this by Friday because this work is easy to do. You won't need 3 weeks to do it. You should be able to do it in a couple of days, so I need it by Friday. Now, let's say you disagree with that. This work is actually hard to do. It takes a lot longer than 2 days to do it properly, okay? That's your opinion. Obviously, your boss doesn't share that opinion. Now, even if you don't voice your opinion or communicate it in any way, there's still conflict between you and your boss. Okay, you disagree on something important. Okay, now, one of the outcomes is to just not mention it. It's like, okay, I think you're an idiot. I don't think you're right about that, but I'm not going to say anything. Another option is to try and communicate with them and resolve it. Another option is to confront them. You have confrontation. You have a shouting match, right? Okay. Most recruiters don't know what they're talking about half the time, so they probably don't realize that's the actual definition of conflict. They're usually talking about a confrontation. That's what they mean when they say the word conflict. So, when was the last time you had a conflict with coworkers? So you could talk about you remember the STAR format, STAR? That's how you answer these types of behavioral questions. Whenever you got to tell a story about your past, you do it in the STAR format: situation, task, action, result. Very, very good method, because it's a very compact way of telling a story. You don't want to start telling a story and be talking for 10 minutes until they cut you off and you haven't even finished. So you say it was like last year, I was in this situation. I was, this was the situation. I was working with a coworker of mine, and we were working on this project together, and, they had different ideas of how the work was to be done, and I did not share those ideas. And it came to a bit of a head where we had to choose one method of doing the work and go with it that we both conformed to. And we really did not see eye to eye on this. But, I found that what I did, I know how to deal with these situations. And that is, I sort of invited the employee to come and talk to me. We went to a private place, just one-on-one. And I asked them, I said, this is this issue we have to work on. We have to decide this. What's your opinion about it? And why do you think that? And I stated mine, and we came to a good compromise and managed to agree on a solution together. Everybody agreed with it. We ended up working well together, and that particular conflict was resolved. Something like that, right? I'm just making all this stuff up off the top of my head, but something like that. The answer to workplace conflict is communication. Okay, whenever you have conflict, what's the solution? Communication. So you go into detail of how you did that, or some form of that. Here we go. So hopefully that makes sense. Retail suck 84, or retail sucks 84. Tell me how you really feel. Help, ran my own business. Okay. Okay. Do you need help, or or you've already done that. You've been there, done that, and ready to move on. You're welcome, Tanya. Awesome, Raj. HRs are asking my expected CTC, what's CTC? And then just disappearing. Also, last week I gave a 3-round interview, final round with VP marketing, and since not a word from anyone. Well, lack of communication, like the phone not ringing, that's the universal answer for no, things are not happening. Don't use acronyms, okay? Like I don't know shop talk for every industry around the world. So spell out what you mean rather than using acronyms. Lino Walker, my buddy Lino Walker, we are like that. We go back to the good old days. I just realized something about behavioral questions. You could make up a story, practice it, and they have no way of knowing that. Do recruiters not realize this? I don't know. Some of them are pretty dumb. There are some recruiters out there that really know what they're doing. They're on their A game. They're very talented. They're good at their job. But there's a lot of recruiters that aren't. It's an entry-level job for HR. That's the thing. Or it can be. It can be. So you do encounter those people. You get the 21-year-old recruiter that doesn't know anything about anything, and they sit you down and they say, so tell me about yourself. And then, you talk about something and they say, oh, I'm sorry, you failed that question. It's like, you needed to talk about this. It's like, screw off. I remember encountering that many years ago, like in the 90s. And that's only gotten worse. Yes, but you're right. You could make something up, but like that's the thing. That's the elephant in the room, isn't it? Should you lie when they ask you questions? Well, the short answer is no, you shouldn't. The thing is, it might lead to short-term gain, but long-term disaster. Okay, it well could, and it has for many, many people. Yes, you could maybe get away with it if you prepare and everything, but I don't recommend it. What's much better is to do two things. Number one, realize that you don't have to disclose everything, okay? So just because they ask you about something doesn't mean that you have to give them full and complete information, all the details. This is not a court of law. They can't order you to answer something. They're going to rely on essentially peer pressure, or whatever you call it, to social pressure for you to just give them what they're looking for, right? These people, they can't find out anything bad about you other than by calling previous employers or references. That's the only thing that they can do. They can't discover your payment history. And I'm talking about, like, as far as I know, countries around the world. Like, I don't know the rules in every single country, but like, I've never heard of your employer can go and see your salary history or anything like that. Like, that's all confidential. They have no access to that. They have to rely on what you tell them. Okay. Now, they can do some background checks. They can look at things like your credit history and things like this, but, by the way, if they do, I would recommend just don't work for those people. That's weird. You know what I mean? If the level of distrust and paranoia is like that high, you might not want to work there. Those are not really desirable employers. But they can't look up any stuff on you. Okay, all they can do is they can call references that you've given them, and ask those people questions. How was this employee? Were they good to work with? Like, they can get the dirt on you maybe like that, but that's it. Okay. They have to rely on you telling them the bad things about you, or them seeing it in you if it's like a behavioral issue or something. Okay. So one thing you can do is realize you don't have to disclose everything. Okay. Don't tell lies, but they don't have the right to sit you down and interrogate you, and you have to answer. This is not like being questioned by the government or something. This is just an employer, okay? So just keep that in mind, okay? So that's the first thing to know. Secondly, is that you can tell a story from different perspectives, okay? you're not going to outright lie, but you can tell it from different perspectives. Okay? For example, if you know that these people really, really care about every employee getting along with the others, okay? Like I worked in a place once where, you know, the owner of the company and all the directors, they had this sort of policy that they did not like confrontation. They did not want employees hating each other. They did not want employees, you know, having conflicts in the workplace where you're like having a shouting match, or, you know, they wanted everyone to get along and to be happy to work with each other. And to their credit, they did a lot to really promote that. You know, it was a very positive place. They were great people to work for. You know, okay. So if you know that they care about, say, something like that, okay, you're going to tell a story keeping that in mind. So when they ask you about a workplace conflict, okay, you're going to tell it keeping in mind that these people, they really value someone who tries to minimize confrontation and tries to work out their problems and, you know, all this kind of stuff. Okay. So those are two things you have in your corner. You don't have to disclose everything, and you can tell a story from a slightly different perspective, you know, as long as you're not outright lying. That's what salespeople do, right? They're going to put the best possible spin on a product, right? Up until the point of making completely false claims. Okay? They always tell you the good stuff. They never tell you the bad stuff. They always give you the best case scenario. You know, things like this, right? So keep that in mind. And then prepare. Prepare stories. Don't go to the interview like where they could ask you all these stories about yourself and you haven't thought of, like, what are my shining moments? What are stories I'd like to tell and what stories I would not like to tell? Do your preparation. That will pay off. Nobody can, well, I don't know about nobody, but I certainly, and a lot of people, can't think on the spot. When you're really nervous, you're in a public situation, you got a bunch of strangers staring at you, you can't really think of original thoughts. What you can do is you can rely on your preparation, okay? And pull out answers and pull out stories that you've rehearsed. Okay, I'm falling behind, of course. I always am. Alex is here. Alex says, "Hi, Bill. Thanks for your videos. They helped me in sales. The tips you provide for telling about oneself, weaknesses and strengths, can actually be applied to products and stimulate sales." Yes, it's some of them. Some of it is like some sales techniques, right? Because a job interview is a sales pitch. You're pitching yourself. They're saying, "Why should we hire you?" And you're saying, "Well, let me tell you, this is what's great about me. This is what I can do for you. This is why I'm great for this job. This is why I click and I fit with all of you people, and we're going to get along great and work well together." Like that's essentially what you're doing, right? For a lot of you technical people out there that might not realize it, that's what you're doing. And believe me, you have my deepest sympathies. I'm not a salesperson. I'm an engineer at heart. You know, I started off as an engineer. So yeah, you know what I mean? But the good news is that this stuff is actually really simple. You know, it doesn't take a lot to learn this. Once you realize what's going on and what, you know, you kind of have to do, it's really not that hard. I mean, certainly if you've done engineering or any kind of technical thing, you've done, you know, you're a developer, you write code, you know, whatever. I mean, this is child's play compared to that stuff. Okay, Dan says, Dan's here. Dan, need a truck to get past the ATS to get that first interview. Switching careers, new MBA, any tips? Yeah. Listen, if you're switching careers, the odds are really stacked against you. You're going to get through applicant tracking software. Okay. Applicant tracking software is used by recruiters for entry-level jobs / bad jobs. Okay. If you're going through a recruiter, the only things that recruiters really care about is years of experience in whatever it is they're looking for. Now, if you're changing careers, by definition, you have no years of experience in what they're looking for because all your previous experience was in a different industry or a different area, right? So you don't usually get jobs where you're switching careers. You don't get them by going to recruiters and applying for jobs in the conventional way. You get them through networking, okay? So look into that. And just so everyone knows, I don't understand why this is such a turnoff to people. Let me sort of explain this very quickly. At the bottom, low-level jobs, entry-level jobs, minimum wage jobs, all that kind of stuff. If they have a job posting, okay, the way you get those is you apply for them, usually with a resume of some kind, and then you might talk to a recruiter. That's typical. That's how you get low-level jobs and entry-level jobs, right? For jobs that are higher up, okay, that's not the norm. That's not how most people get those jobs. They get them through networking. You get them by reaching out to a company and saying, hey, I'm great at this. I've got these skills. I know about your company. I'd love to work for you. If ever you're looking for this, let me know. Okay. It's funny because YouTube, most people on YouTube are like in their 20s. So when I talk about this, it goes across like a lead balloon because that's not what people are thinking about. The networking, I don't know a million people, and then they just tune out. But hey, listen, for those of you that actually have an open mind and you actually want to pursue this, this is how you get the good jobs. This is how you get jobs as a boss. Okay. Now, if you're just starting out in your career, you're at the bottom. Maybe now's not the time to do that. But within a couple of years, my advice would be to tune into this stuff because this is how you get the good jobs. Okay. I can't go into that right this second. I'm going to keep up with your questions, but that's a recurring theme. Okay. So if you want to really help yourself and really help your career, learn about it. Okay, I mean, if you think that they hire like a divisional vice president by like putting up a job ad and having vice presidents apply, and then they sit down with a recruiter and the recruiter says, so tell me about yourself. What's your greatest weakness? Why do you want to work here? It's like, yeah, that doesn't work like that. That never happens. I mean, it may happen in government or people that are just completely out to lunch, but 90% of the time, that's not how it works. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So learn about networking, Dan. That's how you change careers. And you'll find that the fact that your past experience, your career so far, if it's been in a different industry, you'll find that it's not like, depending on what you're doing, but in most cases, it's not this huge disadvantage that it seems like it is because all the transportable skills are there most of the time. Okay. As long as there's no technical skills that are standing in your way, you know what I mean? It's really not that much of an obstacle if you go about discovering jobs through networking and putting yourself forward for them via networking. I mean, yes, I have a course. I can plug my course, my Get Hired course, wherever that is right here. Yeah, I go really deep into that. But I mean, there's some free stuff on my channel. You can look, there's some stuff on the internet that goes all into this. Look at how to get an executive job. Even though you're not going for an executive job, look at the techniques, okay? And that will fill you in as to some things you should probably try. Sherry R says, thanks a lot for all your interviewing prep questions. I cracked a job interview a year and a half back, and I'm interviewing again now for a different position. Thanks a lot and keep up the good work. Well, thank you. Thank you for saying so, Sherry. That's very nice of you. And I'm glad it's working out. Julien Alice says, I used to work as a fitness trainer and I want to change my career to work in the hospitality industry. What do you advise me to do? Okay, well, something that, it depends what you're looking to solve. Like, an obvious thing would be you would need to know what people in the hospitality industry are looking for, right? Now, I don't know if you know that, but if you don't know that, if you don't know what they value, Okay, one thing you can do is you can go on, if you don't know any people, is go on LinkedIn and do a people search for people in, say, like your location, your city, or wherever you are, your region. People search for hospitality industry, like specific roles, or I don't know, just the word hospitality maybe, and see all the people that are working in it and look at their profiles, right? Like you're essentially looking at their resume, okay? And look at what they have. Look at what experience they have. So for example, if you see a lot of people that have come from being like personal trainers, fitness kind of industry, and they all are working in this role, then chances are if you apply for that role with a background in fitness training, they will value that and they'll say, that's just what we need and what we like to hire. So that can help. Okay. So that would be a good start. Hopefully that helps. Kirk Brown, what's your reason for wanting to change careers, Julian? Oh, okay. You're asking Julian. Ramya says, hello, I recently moved to a new country and not having local language skills. How to stand out among other local applicants and convince the hiring managers that I'll be the good fit for the position. Okay, yeah, that's a very popular question. People want to know how to stand out in a job interview. Listen, I think I did a video on that a long time ago. The way to stand out is not to do something totally extrovert and you crazy and off the wall. The way to stand out is to be the best qualified person that fits what these people are looking for. Okay, that's how you stand out, is you're just the one that seems like they're the best qualified for the role. Okay, the way you do that is there's sort of two components. One is the technical components. Okay, if you look at the job posting, they said what they're looking for. Okay, and especially if you're dealing with a recruiter, okay, you're going to want to speak to all of those things, even if you don't have them all 100%. You're going to want to speak to them and say, like, that thing you're looking for 5 years experience in that. I don't have I've got 2 years experience, but in that 2 years, I've done a variety of roles and I've worked with some very experienced people, and I was working side by side with them and I was able to hold my own. It wasn't like, teacher and student. It was like peer and peer. And we did the same work and we performed to the same quality. And so I feel that I can hold my own when it comes to the practical aspects of doing this job. Okay, so you see how I don't quite meet the requirement, but I can still try and put their mind at ease that if they hire me, lack of experience is not going to be an issue. Okay, so that's the technical requirements. The other part of it is your personal skills. Okay, your communication skills, your personal interaction skills, all that kind of stuff. Okay, so you need to work on those if you have any weak areas there, and you need to at least be able to fake it in an interview. Okay, so be very polite, be very formal. Okay, learn all the little sort of body language things, like you look them in the eye when you're talking to them, and that varies by culture around the world, but generally that's how you do it. And things like this, how to look like you're comfortable, how to look like you're well prepared, you're enthusiastic, you're not just out for yourself. You're going to be a person that will be a team player. You'll want to help the company and all your coworkers, all that kind of thing. Right? They don't want to hire people that are just out for themselves. They want to hire people that, will be an employee that will help all the other employees. They want an employee that will be happy to do what the boss asks them to do. They want an employee that's not going to have a problem with everything. And they want an employee that is capable of communicating effectively if they have an issue or if they need clarification. So you want to signal all of those things. Okay. The way you do this is you practice doing job interviews. Okay, you either go to a lot of interviews or you do pretend interviews, mock interviews at home, preferably with a friend or family member. They can give you a hand. They be the interviewer, and you're the candidate, and they ask you a bunch of questions, and you practice having the right answers, just like that. And you practice your body language and, how to, like if you shake hands or you bump elbows or, you practice all of that stuff. So when you go in there, you're on your A game. No matter what they ask you or they say to you, nothing throws you, nothing stumps you. You've got an answer for everything and it's a good answer. Okay. And then they're impressed by who you are as a person. When you leave the room at the end of the interview, they think, you know what? I enjoyed dealing with that person. I'd like to deal with them some more. Okay. That's the goal. Okay. So hopefully that's how you stand out, Ramya. Okay, Sherry says the job description didn't mention any travel, but from the interviews attended thus far, there's some talk of travel. I'm meeting with the hiring manager today. Should I ask him regarding travel? Listen, you can ask, but the problem is just make sure that when you ask, you're not signaling that that's going to be a concern for you. Okay? Like, I don't care if it's a concern or not. If it's a concern and the job doesn't make sense for you, fair enough. But don't let them think that the travel is a concern for you, because I have a video coming out next week where I basically say this, but there's a lot of reasons why you wouldn't accept a job. Maybe the job itself is not to your liking. Maybe one of the working conditions is a deal breaker. Maybe they don't pay you enough, like whatever. There's a lot of reasons why you would legitimately not accept a job if they offered it to you. Okay. But the goal should be to get them to offer it to you, so you at least have the option, okay? Or else, what the hell are you doing? A lot of people that they say, oh, it's not worth my time to talk to people if they say they're not going to pay me enough money, or whatever. It's like, just because they say that in your very first interview doesn't mean that it's true, and doesn't mean that it can't be. It's not flexible. You know what I'm saying? Maybe this role requires a bit of travel. Maybe travel is a problem for you. However, if they like you a lot, they could say, you know what, this job, it does involve some travel, but there's also a lot of duties that happen at our home office. And you know what? If you're a really good employee, we could give you more of the home office stuff and you would hardly ever be required to travel. Something like that, right? They can customize things. Like I've been a hiring manager. You can customize jobs based on people's talents and people's preferences. If they're a good worker and you like them and you feel that they're an asset to the company, you can be flexible, right? That's certainly possible. We see it on salary all the time. They would like to pay you very, very little. But if they see someone that's really talented and really awesome, the hiring manager can say, you know what, I'd be willing to pay them more because they are good, right? Maybe you start on the job and they see that, so I mean, don't make snap judgments about things. If the job looks good, but there's this little travel thing, don't walk out of the interview because of that. Okay. So you can ask about travel, but don't signal in any way that that's going to be a concern. That would be what I would be concerned about. Okay. And there's plenty of time to ask about that stuff if they give you an offer, right? That's the thing. If they give you an offer, they've said, look, we want you to sign. We want you, right? Now you can turn around and say, now, how did the travel work? I'd like some details. Is it one day a month? Where am I traveling to? How does it work? Do you compensate people for this or that? Or is it optional? Is it possible to only travel one day a year? Something like that. That's when you can get into that stuff. Doing it in a job interview when they're not really sold on you yet, that's not really the place to address those concerns. And if they don't give you an offer, what does it matter? So don't bring up issues for no reason in the very beginning. There's plenty of time later to bring those up if it gets that far. Lina Walker, my buddy there, says, absolutely, I've never lied. My thing just jumped. Absolutely, I've never lied in an interview. I unfortunately have a conscience. Hey, buddy, it's not unfortunate. You are blessed to have a conscience. It probably means you're a fine, upstanding person that everyone else would love to deal with. Okay, so don't sell yourself short. But I've definitely learned to play my cards close to the chest. Yes, exactly. I mean, understand what it is. It's a sales encounter. It's a negotiation encounter. That's what it is. Trust is earned, not given. Okay, so if these people are worthy of opening up to a little more later when you're working for them, great. But if not, you don't have to. Thank you, Awesome Raj. That's very nice of you to say. Mohit and I go way back together. Is there a point where one should give up on applying? How long is a realistic duration to grab a job in your experience? Okay, so you need a job, but you're going to stop applying? Like, are you talking about at one company or something? I mean, I would have thought that if you need a job, you're never going to stop applying. You're going to stop applying when you get a job, right? But no, there's no real time. Now, is there a point where you should stop applying to posted jobs and consider making another method of job search your priority? Yes. Very early on. Very early on. Kirk Brown, remember to like the video. Yes, give it a thumbs up. I don't know what that does now because they've gotten rid of the dislike button, right? You can't dislike videos anymore. I mean, you can, but you have to install that little extension or whatever to see it. But it's like if every video you see is liked a certain amount, I mean, what does that tell you really? But yes, like it. I mean, I'm given to understand the YouTube algorithm cares about that. What matters to me is that you guys say nice things. That's what I get out of this. Vic Mitchell, I watched your Get Hired video several times and I received a very good job offer. Right on. I even mentioned I want this job to the hiring manager. Thanks so much. Help. Great. Well, that's great, Vic. I'm glad that it's that you're prospering and that things are going well. And thank you for saying so. It makes me feel better. Sam, if the employer communicated that the job will be in a certain location, then after interviewing, it was deemed to be in another location, which will cost more to travel to, can I renegotiate a salary? Of course you can. Yes. Yeah. I mean, they've handed you a reason on a plate to renegotiate everything right there. You could say, so at the beginning of this process, I was given to understand that the role would be located here. However, my understanding now is that instead the role is going to be located over here. So that means I'm going to have more commute time. I'm going to have more transportation costs and a whole bunch of other things. So, understandably, I'm going to need to ask for this and this and this, Oh, you go on here. If the employer communicated that the job will be in a certain... Oh, that's the same question. That's the same question twice. Yeah. Lauren Hicks. Holy crap. Lauren Hicks with a super chat. Good morning. Do you think a master's degree is necessary to move from operational management to C-suite positions? It depends what industry you're in and what the culture is. In some places like a bank, like if you work in a merchant bank or something, yes, definitely. It might even be a requirement, a hard requirement. You have to have an MBA or, a Master of Science in Finance or something, to progress upwards beyond a certain level. But I would say for most other industries, most situations, no. Now, will it do you good? Yes. It will be a feather in your cap. It will be, aside from its intrinsic value, you will just be more capable. It will be regarded as a good thing, generally speaking. But make sure that the culture in your industry, or the industry you're wanting to go into or something, is supports that. How do you tell? Well, the sort of my go-to method, which I've already mentioned in this live stream, is get on LinkedIn, do a people search for people in your industry, in your location, in those roles that you're going for, okay, the C-suite positions. So if, let's say you were working at a bank, okay, and let's say you're located in, Trenton, New Jersey, the bright center of the entire universe. Do a people search on LinkedIn for, in the region of Trenton, New Jersey, all the banks, okay, and the people that have C-level roles. Look at all of them. Now, if every single one of those people has a master's degree, then chances are you will need one too. That seems like it's a requirement, whether it's official or unofficial. That seems to be what's needed to be in the role. If only 30% of them have a master's degree, then it's looking like that's not really a deal breaker if you don't have one. So, you can do things like that to figure out, how your industry actually works. Forgetting about what people say, how it actually works. Okay? It's not going to tell you, other important things like, maybe you need to be in a certain clique or something weird like this. That's not, obviously you're not going to be on there, but at least it'll give you their resume and you can see like, okay, they all seem to have this, right? So that's what I would say. Just do a little bit of research. You could probably find that out in under an hour, quite easily. Like a really good comprehensive study. Now, LinkedIn has changed over the years. I think, maybe you can only do an unrestricted people search if you have a premium account. Normally, I think you have to pay for a premium account, like, $20 a month or something. But they give like the free trial thing. So if you haven't used that up, they always are trying to promote these things. So sign up for the free trial, you pay nothing, and then presumably you can do a full unrestricted search. Nothing held back, basically. And then just remember to cancel before, they start charging you money. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense, Lauren, and thank you for the super chat. Study again. Study. I like that name. Study says applying online versus in person for entry-level jobs, no experience. Like, are you asking a question? Like which was better or something? In person is better. If you can do it. Obviously, it's far more inconvenient and it's not always possible, especially since 2020. But if you can apply in person, yes, by all means do it. The reason is that, first of all, if you're doing it in person, presumably you can talk to a decision maker. Okay. And when you do, there's several benefits. Number one, they see that you're passionate enough to come down and do this in person. Okay. Anybody can apply online. It takes like 2 minutes to apply for a job online. Okay. Or it can take 2 minutes or less. So everybody and their brother can apply that way. But you came down to the physical location. You walked into a place, it's not your home turf, and you talked to somebody. Okay? So that signals a little bit of effort and desire. You care about this particular job to a degree, at least more than someone who applied online. Secondly, if you're talking to a decision maker, you say, I'd like to apply for this job. Here's my resume, is there anything else you need? Something like that. They're getting a free sample of your communication skills and what you're like as a person. And it's also a little bit of a preview of maybe what it would be like to work with you, because they're already interacting with you, right? So you're much less risky than all the people that applied online, because those people online, they could be psychopaths, they could be crazy, they could be criminals, they could be like the most intimidating, nasty people to deal with. We don't know, right? We've never met them, but they've met you, and you seemed polite, professional. You seemed to be interested, and you were a pleasure to deal with. So they already know a lot more about you, and everything they've heard is good. So you jump to the top of the list, or top of the pile, when you do it in person. Okay, so if you can apply in person, if it's important to you, if it's an important job, this would be a dream job. I'd really want this job. It is an idea to apply in person, definitely, if you can. Now, I understand that that's kind of intimidating to a lot of people. So obviously you don't have to, but if you can, and you work up the courage to do it, you'll usually find that it goes a lot better than you think it will, and the results are much more positive. Sam says, thank you. You're welcome, Sam. Lauren Hicks, that was a great idea. Thank you. I work in an entertainment company. Okay. I'm not sure. Is a lot of entertainment companies, are they on LinkedIn? I'm not sure. I think almost everybody is now. I've seen like actors that are in movies and stuff. They have like a LinkedIn account, LinkedIn profile. And I mean, these are not like super famous superstars, So I believe it's them. It's them. They don't have somebody administering it for them, like a social media manager. It's actually them. So if they're on there, yeah, I guess almost everyone is. Alex says, I'm applying for sales jobs abroad. They require relocation and involve competing with local candidates. I have had limited success, even though I was a top 5% performer in my country, more below. Any tips? In particular, 1, should I include my current country in the resume? And 2, should I include anything about relocation in the resume? And 3, any other tips you think are useful? Yeah, if you're not a local candidate, normally that's good. Okay, like if you're within a country, you're not local, you're coming from the other side of the country, you would have to relocate. Usually that counts in your favor, because there's a bias towards getting candidates that are not local, because it appears that candidate is more exotic, more hand-picked, as opposed to just finding someone who's just like around the corner, right? That seems like, without knowing anything more, you'd assume that they'd be like just an average person. They're not super tailored for this role, So that's a well-known bias, that people will go for the exotic candidate who was flown in because they're that perfect for the job that, we have to bring them in from, like, we can't find people that are good enough here. We have to go outside to get somebody who can do this. So there's a bias towards that. However, if you're jumping countries, a problem with jumping countries in certain circles is that one thing they need, or one thing they would like, depending what industry you're in, is they'd like local experience. That's a problem for immigrants. Okay, if you're coming to a country, you're trying to get your first job, and they say, where was the last place you worked, and what are your references, and you're listing something halfway around the world. They've never heard of it. It's very hard to verify. Your references are halfway around the world. They're long distance. They're people that speak another language. That creates some problems. Like, this person, it could be a complete fabrication for all they know. It would be very hard. It wouldn't be very hard, but they would have more hoops to jump through to verify all of that, right? So one thing that they look for is local experience. That's why a lot of people, when you move to a country, usually you take sort of a more generic, lower level job just to get your foot in the door, get local experience, get like reference from a boss that says, no, I've employed this person here and they're really good. I didn't have any problems with them. They sort of get that in their hand, and then they can sort of move up and get more desirable, better paying jobs or whatever. So it sounds like you're up against that. Okay. I mean, there's many ways you could go at it depending on what you're doing. Now, you're saying, should I include my current country in the resume? I mean, it's a double-edged sword. The pros of not including your country is that, they might be more receptive to you, but then that could evaporate once they realize that you're in a different country, so it can have an effect, but it would lead to a lot more work, going down a lot more dead ends to get something. Should I include anything about relocation in the resume? If they haven't asked for it, I wouldn't include it, but I would be able to ask questions about it, or be able to ask and answer questions about it when it invariably comes up if they're interested. Okay, I would not put that in the initial thing. I would disclose that you're in a different country, just me personally. I don't know if that's the right thing. Depending on what situation you're in, it could be right or not. But all things being equal, I would. But I would not bring up relocation. Any other tips you think are useful? No, I mean, sorry, I would need to know more of your precise situation, what you have, what you're shooting for, and what your goals are. Without really knowing that, I can't give sort of tips. But that's a good start. Like, I don't know. Just my personal opinion, I would look for local stuff if you can, if that's an option. It just simplifies things. It's a lot more convenient. I would only go to another country, like apply for jobs in other countries, if you had either no other choice or you had like a very particular ambition that can only be fulfilled by going to some other country in that location. If you want to be a model, my understanding is in the fashion industry is in New York or Paris, right? Or Milan, or, if you're stuck out in, I don't know, if you're in the US, you're in the Midwest or whatever, it's like, yeah, if you're really passionate about this, then yes, apply, like try and get something in Paris, that would be worth your while. Lauren says, I'm a serial subscription canceller. I love this channel. Wow, you have been very patient with me then. Thank you, Lauren. My company is definitely on LinkedIn. Okay, good. Excellent. Well, we've gotten to the end of the questions. It might be a good time, unless there's any more, it might be a good time to wrap this up. Like two things I will say to people, okay? Based on some of the polls that I've done, number one, if you are looking to do a side hustle, that's my primary thing that I talk about, is how to build businesses and how to grow them and all this and how to take it to the next level. That's my bread and butter that I do. The YouTube thing is kind of a bit of a sideshow, but check out my series called Beyond Employment. It's one of my more recent videos, and there's a playlist called Beyond Employment, and there's 5 episodes. So check those out. You might have to watch them on, how you can adjust the speed of a YouTube video, you can play it and fast forward. So you might want to set it to 1.5 times or 1.75 times to have it move along a bit quicker. But check those out. Maybe the format isn't the greatest, but the quality of the advice is the best I could ever give. Okay, for if you're thinking of starting your own business. It's also an option. It could be an option if you're between jobs right now. Okay, if your job search is not going anywhere fast, for some people, this can be an option. Okay, a very low cost way to start up a business, or it's something to do in the meantime. A lot of people have asked me, like, I have no experience. How can I get a job with no experience? And I was saying, like, look, if you're out of work, if you've been unemployed for like 6 months or a year, start doing something, do something, and then you have experience. You say, like, look, I've never been employed as a job, but I've built this small business in the meantime. I've managed to bring money in to survive. I have skills. I have sales skills. I understand customers. I understand operations of, how to create a thing that's of value. I understand customer service. I understand, the basics of accounting and being able to make a profit, make a revenue higher than your costs. I have these skills, and I've been able to solve problems, figure out how to make something that I can do that will make money, that will bring money in. There's some problem solving skills right off the bat. I've problem solving skills with people, problem solving skills with technicalities, problem solving skills with money, right? With accounting. So, these are transportable skills that I can bring to any role, and although I'm not really ready to, like, this is what you say, I'm not really ready to, become an entrepreneur or whatever. I want to work as an employee. I can bring these skills to your company to make, my work more effective. Right. So if you're just right out of school and you're looking for that first career job, it might be something to do something. And then that's the experience you talk about when they ask you, what's your work experience? Okay. Most people don't do it. So you stand out by, having the initiative to have done these things. Okay. So if that's you, check out that series I did. Also, if you are having problems finding a job and you've done, like some people have mentioned in the chat today, you have, been applying for posted jobs on the internet. It hasn't really gone very far. You can't get past the applicant tracking software and all the filters, or you can't pass a job interview because maybe you're changing careers, or maybe you have a work gap or something like that. Excuse me. Look into alternative methods for getting a job. The big one, the elephant in the room, is networking. Okay? Contrary to what people think, networking is not having to know a million people. That's not what it's about. Okay? Networking is, instead of you waiting for a company to post a job and then you respond, instead, you reach out to the company. Now, if you have a bit of social anxiety, you don't want to talk to anyone on the phone or meet anybody, that's fine. You do it all on social networking. Okay? If you can send messages to people or emails, you can certainly do this. If you're capable of doing a LinkedIn search, like I described a couple of times earlier in this live stream, then you're capable of doing this. It's you reach out to companies, and in doing so, you discover all the hidden jobs, the jobs that are actually there that they haven't posted yet, because they're usually filled before they get to the stage where they're posted. Okay. You discover those, and then, like somebody mentioned, when you apply in person, you're also demonstrating your abilities in the process of applying. That is also the case for networking. The fact that you're reaching out shows you have initiative. The fact that you're reaching out to them shows that you specifically want to work for them. You're not just looking for anything. You're looking for this job, to work with these people. If you communicate professionally to them, that makes them want to respond. That shows what great communication skills you have. It shows how professional you are. It shows how easy you are to deal with as an employee or potential employee. So you're demonstrating this stuff. And then when they invite you to speak with them, it's not like you're an applicant, because you didn't apply for everything. It's a meeting of two people, right? There's no interviewer and interviewee. It's just two people having a meeting. Right? You can usually go and talk to the person over a coffee, and it feels like a referral. They've invited you to speak with them. So you're not down on your knees begging for a job. They've invited you in to see if you'd be interested in working there. It's a completely different dynamic. And then usually it leads to a lot better quality job and a better working relationship with the person who hired you, who's usually the hiring manager. So usually, not always, but usually, a lot more often than with job interviews, you get hired by the person who interviewed with you. They're your boss, and they believe in you. Your boss believes in you. Isn't that awesome? That's what you get. So this is something that, if you've never done this before, you never heard of it before, excuse me, and this is all new, learn about it. It's well worth your while to learn about it. This is not taught as far as I can tell. I'm amazed that people don't know it. So learn this stuff, okay? Find out all the free information that you can. There's a lot out there. Don't listen to recruiters. Recruiters have a vested interest in you going through them. So they're not going to recommend this to you, right? But don't be fooled by that. It does exist. Do your own research. You'll see that more people get a job through networking than through applying for posted jobs. If you don't believe me on that, look it up yourself. If you want to go deeper into it, I have my course that I talk about everything in the course, and that's a big element of it. But there you go. So thank you for everybody who showed up. Mario Souza says, knowing the right people. Well, I don't like that. I mean, what I'm reading into it is that if what you're saying is that you just need to know a bunch of people beforehand, no, you're wrong. That's not what it is. That's maybe how Hollywood might portray it, but that's not what everybody in the real world does. You reach out to companies you don't know. I mean, do you know all the people that work at all the companies in your industry? Of course you don't. Like all the people lower down, all the middle managers and things, of course you don't. It's none of that at all. It's finding those people and just reaching out and saying, hey, I'm here. I do this. If you're ever looking for that, I know you guys do this type of work. I'd be interested in working if there's an opportunity. So if you're looking for this, let me know because I'm interested. That's all you're doing. There's nothing slimy about it at all. Okay. It's not like, oh, you have to know, these people and do favors for them. None of that. That's some weird Hollywood, weapons grade BS. So, it's attitudes. Some people think that. Some people think it's all like a conspiracy. It's all people that know each other and do favors for each other. Hey, if that's what you think, and I can't convince you, you're just making it easier for everybody else by staying out of that game. And so it's more for them. Okay. But for everyone hearing this, it's well worth your while to learn this. It'll be skills that last you your entire career. Okay. And I have no skin in the game here. I mean, I'm just saying what I know. Anyway, that's it for today. Thank you so much for showing up. You guys are awesome. I will be here next Wednesday to answer more questions. Until then, take care of yourselves. And what's the best sign out? Stay fresh, cheese bags. I'll see you later. Take care.